City Council Committee on Administration and Finance, co-posted Committee of the Whole, met in the Council Chamber on Thursday, June 7th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing the matters listed below. Notice this meeting was posted on May 21st, 2018 at 12:50 p.m. This meeting is being recorded. Councilor Fury is absent from the committee. I'm not sure whether he is going to make this one or not. All other members are here. We have one matter tonight, well, two combined matters. We have the fiscal year 19 operating budget meetings and capital improvement plan for the following departments: public schools and the public schools capital improvement plan. So for this, we have our finance director and we have our superintendent, Margarita Ruiz, and she's brought some of her staff with her. And from here, I will hand it off.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Very happy and excited to be here. I just want to say I have with me Kristen Shaver, who is our business manager, and Kelly Rice, our chief of communications. So I'm super proud to present to you the budget, the Salem Public Schools budget for fiscal year 19. And I'm very proud of this budget because this budget represents our continued support in moving forward our strategic plan for the district, as well as ensuring that we support an equitable access to high quality education across our district, across our schools in our district. So that you know, the process to build this budget, as it is every year, is highly collaborative. We developed this budget in consultation with the school principals. Principals were empowered to make changes demonstrated based on the demonstrated needs of their students and the goals of their school that will continue to support the overall trajectory that our schools are on. Specifically, in terms of priorities, as we set out this work, there were four main priorities as we were thinking about this budget. One is to ensure that our schools have the supports and the resources needed to welcome and integrate the incoming students from the Bowditch School as they are being welcomed across the district. We want to continue, the other one is to continue the important work related to the redesign of the high school, and I have some exciting things to say about that in a few minutes. Just to make sure, in our redesign that our students are fully prepared for college and career. We also wanted to provide resources needed to relocate the Horace Mann School to the former Bowditch building at 79 Wilson Street, and to address the longstanding building inequities for that school community. And obviously we want to continue with this budget to support and expand the rigorous academic work that has yielded gains in our district for the past 2 years. I have to say that this year was not a typical year for us in terms of building a budget, because we needed to address the impact of the closing of the Nathaniel Bowditch School. And taking into account that while we were closing a school, we needed to continue serving the children. So we're closing a school, but the children are not going away. The children are staying in our district and are moving on to other schools. We needed to ensure that we have the resources to support them. We also wanted to make sure that this budget supported the integration of the students in the schools, and that we had the staffing and the teaching and support staff that we needed to support the children, following our idea that resources follow the needs of our kids. And we also did this ensuring that our class sizes did not exceed the class size maxima that we have according to the contract with the teachers union, but at the same time making sure, again, that the students were followed with the resources that they need. This year our budget is $60,867,460, and this represents an increase of 1.7%. Which is the lowest increase that we've had in our budget in the past few years. And I strongly believe that this budget will continue to move our strategic plan and to bring forward the good work that we have already underway throughout our district. I'm really excited about next year. So just to give you a few things that we are gearing up with this budget, first of all, we have completed the hiring process for our school leaders at Bates, Horseman, Saltonstall, and Salem High. I'm sure you've heard the news, so we're really excited about welcoming new leaders to our buildings. We're also be moving forward with a one-to-one initiative, technology initiative at the Collins Middle School, and where students will be taking Chromebooks home, and we are beginning the rollout of a one-to-one initiative at Salem High School in grade 9 next year. So very excited about that. We're also continuing the great work that we are embarking on the high school redesign, and our district, we're very proud and excited that our district was one of only 5 districts in the state that was chosen to receive an early college grant in the state. So our 10th and 11th graders, 50 of them, will be taking courses co-taught by Salem High School teachers and Salem State professors, and they will be earning college credit for that before they graduate from Salem High School. So we're really excited about that. And then next Tuesday, you, I'm sure, may have heard that Governor Baker will be coming to Salem High School to announce that our career and technical education program has received a skills capital grant that will greatly enhance our medical assisting program and building maintenance programs in our CTE. We call it the CTE program. So we have, and this is just to give you a little taste of what we have coming forward. So, we are really excited. We feel that this budget really represents the work and supports the work that we want to move forward. And also, we're excited about bringing greater equity to great educational opportunities for all our kids. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just one thing quickly for the committee. Once we're done with this, with the school budget, we don't go through all the various categories and line items that are within here. That's just broken out really for our reference. What we vote on is the bottom line number that's here on our checklist. So, when we're ready to make such a motion, that's what we'd move on. That's normally our custom on how we handle that. So one of the things we have here, I'll just say really quickly. There's a few capital projects that I want to point out, and I'm just bringing this up just to get the numbers actually with them. Mm-hmm. So. There's a few capital improvements that are in this year's plan. Mm-hmm. I know there's further work on the Bentley roof, which is something that we're still responsible for.
Absolutely.
And I know we also just put in the solar panels there as well.
That's right.
The vocational improvements, another. But so the questions that I have are just really quick on it. There's playground upgrade replacement. Which one is that, or is that in general for costs across the district?
So this is for the playground at the Early Childhood Center. Okay. That it's part of the Bentley building, and the playground really is in desperate, I would say, desperate need of upgrade, because the building, the playground right now is not accessible to several of the students that we have at the school. So it's an issue of accessibility and safety for the children there.
Okay, and there's some other improvements if you want to talk about quickly about some of the other improvements that you're making that are in this plan, or
Sure. In terms of the capital plan, we have. So I'll just go quickly over them and stop me or ask me questions along the way. So we have requested a 7D van to help us with the cost of our out-of-district transportation and homeless transportation costs are increasing. We have to subcontract that out, and owning our own vans will definitely cost on that cost. So this is part of a plan, of a multi-year plan of increase that we have, right, Kristen? You want to add a little bit more to that?
Ideally would be increasing the number of vans we have in the district over the years so that we can bring more of those costs down, particularly for, as the superintendent said, for out-of-district and homeless transportation, which is very expensive.
The Bentley roof replacement, just to, when work was started to, in the installation of the solar panels last year, it was discovered really that there were areas of the roof that are in desperate, in big need of repair. So that's why we're putting that in our capital program. The build out of the vocational shop, there is a section of the high school we are reorganizing our programs a little bit so that where the early childhood program is, I think it's on the 3rd floor, we're moving that to be on the 1st floor. And that section where the early childhood program is, and we also have some home ec equipment, we want to build that out to really make a robust place structure medical for the medical assisting program that we have just kicked off. So there are a part of the program requires building sort of like an office, a reception, and having a space for the exam rooms and all of that. So that's something that we definitely would like to do. And with the grant that we're getting through the state, that grant is more for materials and other materials and equipment that we need. We are also requesting a bus, 29 passenger bus, to replace one bus that we really have. It's out of its course. It's run its course. It has in its better days. The College and Career Center floor, if you've been to the high school in that area where the floors on top of the library that are adjacent to the library, we are, as part of the redesign of the high school, we are redesigning that area to be a College and Career Center advising for students. The floor currently has a rug. I don't know how old that rug is, but it's in disrepair. We were fortunate enough to receive a grant. So we are buying new furniture through an outside grant, but we definitely feel that the floor needs a repair. So that's we put there as part of our capital plan. And then I talked about the playground already, and the Salerno roof and mechanical HVAC replacement. Kristen, you want to talk a little bit about the HVAC system there?
Sure. That particular building is the auto shop at the high school, and the energy use at that building is the highest in the city per square foot. So we did a study in cooperation with the Director of Capital Projects to see what sort of improvements we could make to that space to bring the cost down and make it more energy efficient, and so this would cover some of those costs.
Very good. Any questions, members of the committee so far? Councilor Dibble?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you. I wonder if we could talk briefly about what are some of the cost savings or additional costs as a result of closing the Horseman School. Are we seeing any savings?
Yes.
And what are they roughly?
So we have close to, if you access page,
I think it's in your book, section 4, page 12, I believe.
yeah, let's,
For us, it's section 8.
I'm on section 8. Page 292 is where I start.
Here, section 4, isn't it? Is this what you're looking for? On this?
Yep,
Yep.
that one.
Section 4.
It's that page that you're looking at specifically, Lori.
so if you look at, that's page 9 in my book. I'm just trying to make sure that we're accessing the
Might
same
be,
page.
yeah.
Their pages are different.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
that's
need
what
to
I want to make
translate it
sure
to
that we're
ours.
looking at the
So
same page.
it is section 4, and Lori, it's the page that's right there.
Yes, no,
Yeah,
it's
is it-
section, it says section 4-12, so page 12. What, you're looking at it?
Section 8.
We're looking at the city book.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Is it?
Tab 4, the big tab.
Oh,
Tab
The big
4.
tabs earlier.
Yeah, the main tab 4, all right. Okay,
Tab 4, but
but the overview school, okay.
So if you look at that,
Yep.
are we all on the same? I just want to make sure that we're all
Yeah,
on
the
the same
overview
page.
section,
Yeah. So this is a budget
The
overview for
big
the.
blue tab at the beginning.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
Which
everybody's
page?
there.
what page number?
412.
Got it, thank you.
Got it.
Okay. So maybe I'll walk you through this, at a high level.
Yes.
So what you have here, this is a budget overview for the fiscal year 19. So it starts with the FY18 appropriation. As you can see that was last year's appropriation, including the Bentley Academy, that 59,826. 265, that was last year's. Now, when you take into account the contractual obligations, so every year our budget goes up, taking into account the contractual increases for teachers, paraprofessionals, and other union members. Here you have those expenses increased. And then also, we have itemized here other expenses that we have projected increases: out-of-district tuition, homeless transportation. They're all pretty self-explanatory. And we also included the Carlton plan increase and the Bentley Academy. Now, when you go to the bottom where it says budget changes, the 1,570,256, that is the amount that includes the savings from the closure of the Bowdish and also some of the salary shifts, and some shifts that you'll see through the budget book are all included there. So taking those savings with the increases in our expenses, this is where we reach to a 60,867,460 with the Bentley appropriation and including the Bentley appropriation. But that number gives you the line of the savings with from the Bowditch and other adjustments that we've made.
If we could speak a little bit better on Horace Mann School, the teachers are transferring, the custodians stay with the university, so it's,
That's correct.
I'm not seeing the overall, I understand the need to give them a better facility. But I'm not seeing the overall savings, if any, of closing that facility. Because the lion's share of the cost of the maintenance, the custodial staff, the electricity, the heating, maintenance, on and on, are all borne by the university. Is that correct?
Yes. The maintenance of the building that they're currently on Loring Ave. I just want to be clear.
Yes.
That, yeah. Mhm.
So what by moving Horace Mann School, what savings is there in closing that school?
So the savings is, we're not closing the Horace Mann, we're closing the Bowditch.
Closing the building.
So closing the building, but the savings have been ensued in the closing of Bowditch. So I just want to make sure that we don't mix the two.
Let's say one school in Salem is closing,
That's right, yep.
okay? One existing school is not going to be used anymore, and that's the existing Horace Mann building. With that, Salem State University paid for the lion's share of that whole plant, except for the staff. They pay for the janitors, building, probably not the cafeteria workers, but just about everything else, I bet.
Right. So we closed the school, but I think the problem is that we're focusing on the Horace Mann. When we closed the Bowditch school, we closed the school, but the children have not disappeared.
Correct.
Right? So the children have been assigned to other schools. The children, to the tune of 300, have been assigned to other schools. The children need to have teachers, support staff, that go with them. So those services would have not been eliminated because the children are in our district. It's just that they're in other schools. So we have some savings here, but we also need to keep in mind that the children have not left. There were reductions in some FTEs as a result of the Bowdish closure. But also we need to take into account the fact that the children, we have children that are English language learners that need ESL teachers in addition to content, area teachers. We have, adjustment counselors. We have, secretaries and assistant principal, not assistant principal because we didn't deploy those, but services that we are currently paying for at Bowditch that went with the children. So the move of the horseman, to our building, we are already incurring in the expenses of, the custodians at that building. But the savings was not ensued from closing. I just want to make very clear that the movement of the horseman school was not a savings measure. It was a move to provide that school with a better facility, given that we were closing what we know now as the Bowdish School at 79 Wilson. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Clearly, I think everybody's in agreement that we needed to give the students at the Bowdish School a better education, provide for them in a better way. What was been going on had not been working for many years before you were the superintendent. Similar type things were happening at the Bentley School, and we blew that school up, made it a partial charter school, on, and now we did the same thing to the Bowdish School 8 years, 10 years later, whatever the number of years is. Hopefully we don't do it to another school, 7 or 8 years from now with the same problem.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more.
We can't make the same mistakes as we just did twice to 2 different schools. And
I couldn't agree with you more.
Neither of which were your personal fault as the superintendent, because it was going on before you were superintendent. And I applaud you for taking steps. You took a lot of criticism, but you took some action to correct it. Let me rephrase my question. I guess I'm asking, what is the, how do I word this? Ballpark, what's the lost savings from moving off of Salem State College campus? They saved us a lot of money on the heating, electricity, the janitors, the building, the maintenance, endless amount of money. There's a whole lot of money that it was a gift basically from Salem State that they paid for the whole building basically, except for teachers.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, you're moving those students to different schools that are already existing.
That's right.
So the fact that you had savings because Salem State was covering a number of the overhead costs, those overhead costs no longer exist because you moved kids into existing buildings which already have fixed costs that we're already incurring. So you're not losing anything in the sense that Salem State used to pay for those particular items because you're already paying for those things in the existing schools.
I have to differ. We are losing that because Salem State, in your own words, Salem State did pay for that. They paid for the maintenance. They paid for the electricity. They paid for, I think, half the principal.
But you're not incurring, those costs are not being incurred anymore.
That's right, but it's a lost savings.
Counselor, those costs didn't go to the other schools, though.
That's correct.
Right.
So we're not paying that money. We weren't paying that money when we had the Horace Mann School on campus, but we're not paying that money going forward, having the Horace Mann not on the campus, because the fixed cost for the existing school buildings already exists. So those fixed costs remain the same and aren't increasing.
I understand what you're saying, but they're not really lost savings to the city because really, though, that doesn't, it has no impact on the city because the costs associated were being incurred and paid by Salem State, but it's not being translated in any, they still have costs associated with that building, but we don't, because we moved our kids into a different school that already existed. If we move them from that school into a new school, then I would say we would have lost savings that because at that point Salem State would be paying for those additional costs. And now we don't have that. But that isn't the case here because you already have that fixed overhead has always existed. You're just merging those children in with existing schools.
Correct. And the amount of maintenance and other things will be less because it is an existing school. The custodian's already there and we're adding more students there, so therefore that custodian will have to do a little bit more maintenance, a little bit more cleanup for those additional students. But it's minor. The end
Spreading
result
that
might-
fixed cost over more people.
Yes.
Right, I mean, the fact that you have a janitor there, I mean, in theory, if you don't have the schools aren't at capacity, so when you build a school, you have an expectation that there's a certain capacity and you hire people based on what that capacity is. Excuse me, I lost my voice, but, so when the capacity of the students go up and down, in terms of, the enrollment cycle, you still have a set fixed cost. So in a sense, moving those children into the various schools maximizes what your fixed cost is versus, having to have class sizes, and it just it levels off.
We're going to agree to disagree, because I think the gift that Salem State had been giving us for decades and decades, maybe close to 100 years, was significant in that they paid for just about everything in that facility. And now we're not working with Salem State University and letting them pay for one of our school buildings.
Sure, but we're not using that school building. It's not that we've taken over payments on a school building.
Right, it's not costing us any more money. It's great, it was wonderful that they gave the city that resource, but it's not costing the city any money by shifting those children to the other schools because they were already existing schools, and the teachers are being moved, you're already paying those salaries, and those are shifting in. If anything, in some areas, you probably save some money.
If we were
I agree with you.
Right.
Yeah, if we were maintaining the same amount of total school buildings, but moving from the Salem State campus to an independent school building,
Right.
then you'd be increasing your cost because you'd be giving up Salem State subsidy of it. But
Exactly.
Salem State subsidy consisted of paying for the building and paying for the maintenance and the utilities for the building. But that's just simply, we got to use that building when we had the demand for it. And, although it was an outdated and pretty woefully inadequate building, it was still free, but we already own a whole bunch of other buildings, and they have the capacity to handle the students.
I think my opinion of, and I got vetoed by the mayor and on, of the need to keep our school and expand into early childhood at the university. That's a whole nother discussion that simply is not happening. It might be happening at your level, but it's not happening on our level. I had hoped that back in February that a meeting would be set. I was promised by the mayor that a meeting would be set at the end of March. And then that meeting got changed to April, then it got changed to June 4th. And June 4th is now come and gone. And hopefully we'll have a meeting at some point where we can talk about expanding and improving the school system through early childhood and the use of Salem State University, and maybe at Salem State South Campus doing something substantial down there. We've had this discussion.
Right.
I was just looking for a meeting to be held that wouldn't cost us a penny. And it's not your fault, but the mayor, we've canceled this many times.
I do believe, though, that the mayor spoke to school committee, and there will be a committee of the whole happening to discuss early childhood in the district.
That was promised to me in February. So it's been a few months now, and several dates have been canceled. I think we're missing out on an opportunity. We have a university here, and we can significantly help our early childhood students jump into kindergarten and get off and running a lot faster with, instead of having 150 to 250 kids on the waiting list for early childhood services and they never get them because there's no room for them. Maybe we can think outside the box and do something for them. With that, can I talk about the numbers of students that we have right now? How do we compare, say, this year and the last couple of years in terms of enrollment K to 12? And then if we can look at K to 2 this year versus the last couple of years, and where will we be with those numbers of incoming kindergartens the next couple of years? What are the projections? So our enrollment has been going down for
Yes,
10, 12 years or so. But what are the numbers, rough idea? Just give us an overview of this picture, and where will we be next year, a year from now, and with the births, we know roughly what we'll be at in 4 or 5 years.
So we have,
Page 8.
so it's page 8, page 5 for us, right?
Yeah, it's in that same
So
section
you-
4, page 8.
You should have a table entitled District Enrollment. It looks,
What page number again?
I don't know what page number you guys.
8, I believe.
4-8, so go
Thank you.
back.
So, I'm just
Got it.
is everybody there? Okay, so when you look at this graph, just to orient you to what you're looking at, these are, our projections from 2000, starting in 2011, the school year 11-12, all the way projected to 18 and 19. Each bar represents all of our grades. So if you look at the green section of a bar, that's the total for pre-K and grade 5. The blue is the middle grades, middle school grades 6-8, and then the orange is high school. So what you see here over the years, it has been, a decrease in our enrollment. So if you look, for example, at the high school level, we've gone from 1,002 students in the 15-16 school year, projecting to 969. For next year. When you look at middle school, it's a little hard to read. It's 15 and 16. It's 824 students projected to 760. And then if you look at K5, we don't have this broken by K2 to 3 to 5. So that's data I don't have with me right now, but at least this gives you a sense of where we're going. So if you look at 15, 16, there were 2,018 students in grades kindergarten through 5. The enrollment is projected to be 1,846 for the 18-19 school year. We have engaged in looking at even long-term projections for the city, and in terms of our enrollment. And yeah, we are a district and a city that is experiencing declining enrollment now. The part of this is attributed also to demographics. So we are, I believe in our census data, it is showing that we are, as a city, we're having less families with school-age children in our city, and that is accounting for some of this as well. So this gives you an idea of the progression of this. So this is something that we have, at least from my tenure on, I can't speak before 2015, but one of the things that we're looking very carefully is the alignment between enrollment and resources. That as, our goal is obviously to increase enrollment in our schools, and we are, excited that we see an uptake in the middle grades. We have more and more families this year telling us that they're going to the Collins Middle School as opposed to other offerings in the city. So that is very encouraging, and we have, we're excited about that. But we take a close look at this, because then we look at, the level of resources that we have, and do we need to make adjustments? And we do make adjustments. When you look at that summary page that we talked about in terms of the savings, we do make adjustments based on that. But the reality is this year, I think that one of the things that we need to make clear is that by the closing of Bowdish, the children are not leaving. So the children are staying with us. So we had to make sure that the resources went with them within, a larger context that yes, our enrollment is declining, and that we have also made adjustments to account for that.
How many students does the Bentley enroll?
The Bentley, it has a maximum of
340.
For next year, they are going to be fully enrolled at 340.
Because I'm just looking at that in the context of the overall enrollment history and projection, noting that Bentley was removed for starting in 2016, 2017, for the last 3 years, it was removed. But if you add that, pop back in, because we do have money coming out of the city budget to pay for Bentley, that pretty much takes care of most of that offsets virtually all the decline. Councilor Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to share, this is not really a question, but for the benefit of my colleagues as well as anybody watching, that I was at a conference the last couple of days, and one thing that I found out that's very related to what we're looking at here is that this is not a Salem issue. This is across the Commonwealth. There are very few cities and towns that are increasing. Most are decreasing in terms of families with young children and enrollment in school districts for a number of reasons, but it's not it's not necessarily Salem specific.
I read, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes,
I read that Beverly was significantly on the increase. I'm wondering, how do we compare with Beverly and maybe Peabody and Danvers in terms of their numbers and projections? But more importantly, I'd be curious about those numbers. I'm curious as to next year, the incoming kindergartners versus the last couple of years, and then the year after and the year after that. Where will we be in terms of students coming in for the next couple of years versus to where we are today?
I mean, I think I can get you the specific data. I didn't come prepared with that data in my hands
Yeah, please send
to
to
give
us.
you any specifics, so I'll be happy to provide that information.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's a big question, because if in 3 or 4 or 5 years, and the population, we go in cycles, my students were graduating high school when we were at a peak, and then it went down, came back a little bit. It's a yo-yo all the time. But if we're back a few years from now with substantially higher numbers, so if more kindergartners are coming, the year after more kindergartners are coming, they're going to probably stay with us for the whole 13 years. And if Bentley is at maximum, if other schools are now approaching maximum, which I'm not sure they are, then we might need to look at Horace Mann South at Salem State University or somewhere else.
Eventually, potentially, if that happens. However, the long-term projections that we have are not supporting that notion. So, unless, again, I'm not an expert in demographics. That's not part of my level of expertise. But what we know is that the trends as we know them, and you're right, Counselor, and this is a trend for I think it's national, I think, it's national. I don't know if it's because, many more families are having just one child. I mean, that's become a very common occurrence, myself included, in that group. So I really don't know what the reason is, but certainly we are experiencing less and less school-age children in our communities, and it's very clear that in Salem we do. Whether we are projecting an influx of kindergartners, because we did that. This is one of the things that we looked at as we were, contemplating the possibility of closing the school. Obviously, if we suspected that we were going to have an influx of children, that wouldn't have made sense. But two things were very clear to us. One, that we had the space and the capacity to receive the children in our schools without stressing, our schools, beyond their capacity. Obviously, transferring some of the supports for the children. And two, that we know that the enrollment projections over time are giving us an indication that having a burst of incoming kindergartners is very unlikely to happen, at least in the next 5 or 6 or 10 years. I have that information. I'll be happy to share that information with you as well.
If I can just continue.
Go ahead, and then I'll recognize Councilor Dominguez after that.
Yep. Keeping with these numbers, and I'll get to this, can you define what administrators are in our school system? Your principals, yourself, your assistants? Who else are administrators?
So administrators are principals, assistant principals. We have directors. We have what we call the team chairs, that are the administrators that oversee the special ed program in each of the schools.
Depends on what you're looking at. I think that summarizes it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we take out the guidance, the janitors, the food workers, the teachers, the paras, anything else, what's left over would be my definition of administrators, I guess. With that, the number of students citywide, K to 12, has gone down substantially over the last 10 or 12 years. I think it's like 25%. But yet the administrators, I'm told, the percentage has gone way up over the last 10 or 15 years. I'm not saying the last 2 years or 3 years since you've been around, but it's gone way up. Can you comment on that?
I would have to look at that data. I'm not quite sure what data you're looking at. I mean, especially if it's time before my tenure, is something that I would, need to look into. Certainly, the level of staffing that we have in our district is, aligned with the needs of our students. And it's something that also has been taken, school committee has looked very closely at. And some of these levels, I can't speak of the trajectory. I mean, I'll be happy to, if you can refer me to the data that you're looking at, I'll be happy to give you some of the historical, but it's hard for me to comment on something that I don't have the data in front of me.
I can say one thing historically to it, which is, from a timing perspective, that when the school system here was actually out of money because of the various shenanigans that were going on at the time, one of the things that was done during that time in order to try and get financial stability to the system was most of the assistant principals were eliminated at that point during that time period. And when the system kind of bottomed out in 2011, one of the direct criticisms we got from DESE was that we were pretty much given instructions to get assistant principals in the schools. And that was a significant boost to increased administration when we complied with that. And that was roughly in 2011, 2012, when we put assistant principals back into the system, which we had done without for quite some time in most schools. That's one change I'm aware of. So,
Let's switch gears a little bit. If we could talk, if I may continue, talk a little bit about the contracted services. It looks like we're significantly increasing on some line items for contracted services. In other places, it's zero this year. So I'm not following. What are these contracted services, and why are we significantly increasing that level? Even though your budget has gone, the percentage increase is really low this year. I applaud you for that. Some things seem to be out of whack and way up high versus. So if contracted services are way up for this coming year, then other things have to be down because your net increase is really low. Teachers are getting raises, but the overall net increase is pretty low, 1.7%, I think you said?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What are these large, for example, we're in the city's budget here.
We don't have what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So we can't speak to it. You can show us the.
Let's go to, if somebody can share with
for
us,
us, it's 415.
how about section 8, page 305?
Section 8?
Yes. It's in tab 25.
305. Okay, yeah. Hold on a second.
Tab 25, page 305. Right in the middle of the line almost. It says contracted services, $140,000, but it was zero last year
All right, hold on a second.
and zero the year before.
You said 325?
305 in
Oh,
our
I'm
book.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm mishearing you. All right.
While we're at it, can I ask about the custodials? Are we hiring more custodians? That's why the custodial budget is significantly higher this year. That's another $120,000 over last year.
We are hiring 2 additional custodians and 1 additional maintenance worker.
Is that due to the Horace Mann coming into our school system?
It's primarily due to the facilities department is understaffed. If you look at the square footage of our buildings, and this is an attempt to increase that. It is also with the Witchcraft and the Collins Middle School gaining about 80 kids at the Witchcraft and about 100 at the Collins from the closing of the Bowditch. We're putting additional resources there. So the 2 custodians are going to those 2 schools.
Okay, so that's, in my opinion, that's a net savings lost. If, because we're having more students there in those facilities, then it's costing us more money versus Salem State paying for those janitors.
It's costing us significantly less money if we were opening a brand new school.
Absolutely,
and
but we're not doing
holding,
that.
the children. And I think, one of the things that, we made very sure in this process was that we ensured that we have, adequate facilities and cleanliness, and this is something that we heard very loud and clear, not only from the community but also from our principals. I said at the beginning of my presentation that we work in close collaboration with the school leaders, and this is something that we felt was necessary, and and the cost is a need, is something that was warranted to have, placed in our schools.
I'm in full agreement. I'm just pointing out the observation that we have more students in our city-owned buildings, so it's more cost. And we just confirmed that with this one line item.
But it's still less than having the other school open, so.
We're not even discussing opening another school.
No, but you closed a school. In that school, there was some savings by moving those kids to the new school. So even though when you move kids, some of the overhead costs don't go away. You have to shift some of them to the existing schools.
Exactly, but those
But
costs,
you still have a reduction in cost overall.
those costs are not being shifted. The Salem State gets to get those savings. We don't. They're not shifted to us. If we can go to page.
But that isn't completely true on all of it,
We
because
just
you're
said
still
what-
saving, but you're saving in some areas, but it's costing you money in other areas.
Right, we just said we're hiring more janitors because we now have more students in those schools.
It also said that they considered themselves to be undermanned
Right,
for
right.
maintenance as well, over district-wide.
On page 305, the $140,000 line item for contracted services, it's been zero the last couple of years. Can you explain what that is?
That particular line is to account for the cost of moving from the Horseman into the current Bowditch building and from the Bowditch building into the other schools.
That's a one-time cost?
Yes.
Okay. That cost would not have been realized had we not been closing the Bowditch School and moving the Horseman School.
If the reason for doing it was strictly financial, then, the moves wouldn't make sense if we were doing it strictly for the purpose of saving money.
We're in agreement. I'm just pointing out the observation that it is costing us some money to move.
Of course.
Hiring more janitors, hiring whatever, more maintenance.
Can I just,
Where did you save money?
So we have if you're looking at the page 12, in that particular section that we were talking about before, where there was the almost $1.6 million of savings, those were savings that we incurred from the closing of the Bowditch, because we were able to realize efficiencies by moving the students into other schools where there were already space for students. So we didn't have to add as many resources in those schools that were already in the Bowditch. So we were able to realize about $1.6 million of savings by closing that school.
Good observation.
and I just also want to highlight that this was, for us, again, the reason to close the Bowditch was not a financial reason. I think I was very public about the reasons for that, and increasing access to equity and great, educational experiences for the children at Bowditch who had been deprived of that year after year. It was something that I felt was very important to do, and thankfully our school committee agreed.
I'm going to give somebody else a minute here. Councilor Dominguez, you waiting for an opportunity?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On being a member of the committee, I just wanted to commend you again and good councilors was having say. But I have a quick question here for my own clarification. Based on the budget, what do you think is the line item that provoked the most increase in this budget, on this year budget, based on the other line? Which one? Administration was talking about administration in new hire. What is the line item that you think that impacts in the increase of 1.7%? The most one that impacting right now the budget this year.
The contractual increases for the teachers.
And is there any way you already can tell us what is the cost per student of this year in this budget? What is the cost per student based on percentage. You have
We
that?
have to do that now. We don't have that. So we can certainly provide that information to you.
Councilor Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a relatively minor clarification question. So last night we heard from engineering about snow and ice, and on page section 8, page 305, there's a line item for snow removal, and I know there's nothing in there for this year, and there hasn't been in the last few, or there isn't for this year, but last year it looks like we incurred $57,657. So I was just wondering why that popped into the school budget, where normally I think it's covered under the general snow and ice budget.
No, so similar to the city side, you're not mandated to budget for snow and ice removal. So what happens is, as we get closer to the end of the year, they identify, just like with free cash, whether there's excess money in certain places. But the school department does incur some of those costs at the end of the year for removal of snow at the schools.
Okay.
So that is an allocated cost associated with the school coverage for this year. That's why you're seeing that number. Next year, there'll be some other number, but we never know what that's going to be.
Okay. And so it goes on to the school budget whenever, or it shows up on, I mean, I know it's not budgeted for, but it shows up here in the reporting whenever it's on a school property?
That's right.
Okay, thanks.
But it's all lumped comprehensively with snow and ice on the city side. We're just showing where the expenditure was made.
Oh, okay, so it would be doubled up. Is that what you're saying, or no?
No, so what
Okay.
you're seeing here is what's actually been incurred for the city,
Yeah.
for the school department for this particular year.
Yeah.
That number would be reduced from the city side.
We account for it so you can see where it is, but you'll see it's never budgeted. It's just on the
Right.
expenditure side. So it comes out of our pool. But
Yeah.
we want to be honest about where those snow and budget costs are. So a portion of them are shown in
Does it show up elsewhere besides the school budget?
No, just
Anywhere?
those two places.
Okay.
That's the only two.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Flynn?
Through the chair, you were saying that there's a savings of $1,570,000 from that closing of,
And others, so 1,570,256, that's also including some salary shifts and some of the proposed changes. You see, I'm not quite sure how your book looks like, but we've made, changes throughout different areas of the organization. So it's the boutage and those shifts.
is there a page in here that shows that savings, each pot broken down of that 1.5 million?
Well, you have to look in the
Yeah.
current year's budget, right? So
And it would be under each line, is that?
the budget, it shows you a line item by line item, and then you took these groupings and said within that area, perhaps there's less personnel on the teacher side, so some percentage might be lower on that end.
Okay.
But we've grouped it because the school department budgets, as you can see,
Yes, I know.
it's difficult to align exactly where that is to show you. I'm not sure it would actually make as much sense to you as it is by grouping. So where those 1.57, almost $1.6 million in savings were derived from.
So with the closing of the school, how many less teachers would you say that we have from last year to this year? As far as even counting attrition, I know that still counts. The bottom line number is how many less teachers by closing the school?
So we were able to reduce, I think it was 29 FTEs. So the FTEs doesn't necessarily mean that all of them were teachers. Okay, so that's the total amount from Bowditch. So that in there, the savings is also a part of that. So the reduction in the FTEs.
And were any of these 29 jobs layoffs, or was it through attrition?
It's primarily through attrition. As we get closer to the end of the year, we'll see if we have any layoffs, but
Okay.
the vast majority is attrition. There may be some, but
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Councilor Dibble, do you have any follow-up questions?
Second here.
Councilor Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is a line item I saw popping up quite a bit throughout the breakdown. That's called fringe/stipends. Can you explain what that means?
So those are costs, so those, it's stipends that are paid mostly at the school level. For example, when, I'll give you the example of the high school. The high school has a lot of extracurricular activities, and those activities are led by teachers. So teachers get paid an amount that is set, the parameters for that amount are set in the teacher's contract. We were able to negotiate it last year with the union, very good structures around how those stipends will be paid. So we pay them based on that. So we look at the number of students that are in that particular activity, the number of hours that, and then how often. Some clubs happen, in one semester, some clubs are year-round. So depending on the structure of the activity, teachers get paid for that. That's an example. Others receive stipends, in the more academic realm to help, with the MCAS, for example, the MCAS materials. When students, we're going to be walking away from that because we're doing more online testing, but for students that do the paper-based tests, those tests come in boxes. There's a particular way that they need to be organized, and those are hours that teachers put in and checking the rosters of students. So teachers also do that after school, so they get a stipend. So those are examples of the kinds of things that we pay our staff for things that they do beyond their workday.
There's also stipends for teacher leadership opportunities, I believe.
That's right.
So
Oh, yeah.
when we have, a particular ILT program, or we're rolling out a digital program, we may have folks in the building who are the leaders for that, take on organizational and additional duties related to that, and they'll receive a stipend for that.
Councilor Dominguez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see on page 306, section 8, the transportation item decrease versus the 2007 budget. Due to the fact that we're gonna split the student that used to be in one school to different school now. Can you explain why this item drove instead of stay the same or increase?
Which page did you said?
Page
8306?
306, section 8.
It's 5112 is the org.
5112. It's right here.
You see that on 2017 it was 110,757. On this year it's 73,828.
That's the salary line, so that's the staff,
That's
that's
transportation.
transportation staff.
Is it? Or is it
you
just
say transportation.
I think that's transportation staff.
So the adopted
That's-
budget
yeah,
for
that's
FY18 is
definitely
72,000.
Yeah.
Year-to-date expenses are a little bit higher than that. I think we made a transfer into that line item at a school committee meeting
We
to
did.
account for that.
Yeah.
But the department is requesting 73,000, so
Right,
the
so the-
budget hasn't gone up from last year. The request hasn't gone up from last year.
Right, the decrease is a shift really from staffing, having school bus drivers in-house to contracting out school bus drivers for the big buses where it's a difficult position to fill.
So that doesn't mean that it's going to be a cut on the service?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Dibble?
Hey, Mr. Chair. If we look at the line item 2 lines above that, administrative, it was 0 in 2017, 2018 it was 0 again, but this year it's 319,000. What is that? And if it was 0 the last 2 years, what are we spending a third of $1 million on?
It's an allocation change, I would just need 1 minute to look and see what that particular line item is.
Hiring 3 or 4 new administrators?
No, it's definitely a shift from another line item, and I'm just looking to see if I can tell what that is from here.
While we're at that, I had one other question on the middle school on the next page, but I think we've already answered it. There's a $500,000 increase on the middle school, but we've already talked about the increases needed at the middle school, so I think that's where that $500,000 is going.
So the administrative, that's a shift. We didn't add administrators this year, but we would have to get back to you on what exact positions those are that are shifting from what account number to what. I don't have that information in front of me.
I've asked for a little bit of information tonight with some numbers, and how soon can we get that information from you? Because we're going to be voting on this fairly soon.
We can send it to you tomorrow.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councilor Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To jump off of that question, there were changes made this year. I'm new this year, so a rookie question. Were there changes made this year in the way that the budget was presented? Or is it normal to see that sort of shifting, like you were just referring to, shifting from one line item to another? Because I noticed as I was going through before this line by line that sometimes it would be zero last year and a big number this year, and sometimes the opposite. So did you make significant changes in the way that it's presented, or is that a normal way a normal thing that happens every year?
As we go forward, we try to ensure that expenses are allocated more appropriately, more in line with where the expenses incurred. So last year and this year, we've seen some shifts in the allocations as we've been able to clean up those accounts. Mm-hmm. So overall, that is not a change. It's just moving from one account number to another.
And then the school committee and their responsibility then scrutinizes all the various allocations between areas and they look at all those shifts at least as in their budget process as part of it.
And sometimes when it comes to costs like transportation, you can't always know for sure what those numbers are going to be. You may end up with more homeless students or special needs, and those costs can increase or decrease depending on a particular year, so other needs can sometimes happen. So sometimes those budgets do get realigned because you have to find it in other places to cover costs that are fixed costs or costs that have to be covered.
Okay. And to follow up on that, just a sort of presentation question, I guess. There are line items called district-wide teaching, and then there are line items called salaries full-time, and then also sort of like high school, middle school, elementary. So can you just talk about the differences between what's going into each of those?
Yeah, I'll go overall and then Kristen, you can add. So district-wide teaching refers to positions that work throughout all the schools. So, we have, I'm just trying to think of an example. We have reading specialists are, they are centrally budgeted. So those reading specialists are not really attached to the budget of any particular school. However, they are deployed and they work at our schools, but they're centrally located in terms of the budget. So that's an example of that. And then when you look at the specific schools, those are the resources that have been attached specifically to each one of our schools. I forget, what was the other category that you mentioned?
It was, so district-wide teaching, and then I saw like high school, middle school, elementary, but those were not, it didn't specify, I don't think, I didn't notice it specifying specific schools. It kind of captured it, I think, sort of just in those age ranges.
So that's another way of showing, so when we talk about elementary, so what are, the teaching staff across the district that teaches at the elementary levels. Okay. The teaching staff that teaches at the middle school level. And we have, for example, in middle school, we have currently 3 schools that have those grades. So that middle school will include the staff at the Collins, at Saltonstall, and currently at Bowditch, which all those schools have middle grades.
And then there was another one, and this might, and then I noticed administrative, but also salaries full-time. So, you captured, it sounds like what you already covered is teachers. So I'm assuming maybe both of those are not teaching positions, salaries full-time and administrative.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So what's the difference between those two?
A teacher and administrator?
No, the line salaries full-time and administrator, which are the only ones that are
Salaries. So on the salaries, remember we have teachers, we have administrators, and then we have a whole bunch of employees that are neither one of them, right? So we have our clerical employees, we have bus drivers, we have a cadre of staff that work in a district that don't fall in those two categories. So correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen, that's how we organize them, right?
Right. For example, I can see that I don't know where it is in this one, but there is a particular line that is salaries full-time, and it's for nurses.
Okay, yeah,
So it's
because I
just
do
the way
see clerical is broken out also, I just noticed as well, but yeah, nurses would make sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
I just want to call out the administrative line item that was increased, 5117, the 319. If you go down to about 3/4 of the page, you'll see another 5117, which has been zeroed out. So I think we may have flip-flopped, just where the org and ob was. So we have a Munis reporting system, which is centralized, because we want to be able to see these line items. The school department then breaks it down further to meet some of the categories to make it more manageable. So I don't want anyone, some of the reasons why it's not just easy to say, where's that and that, we're looking at two different presentations in terms of how they break it down once it gets to the school department, but we need to centralize it through Munis, through the org and ob numbers. If you also turn the page, you'll see 5117 several times for administrative, where costs have been decreased. So I don't want to give anybody the impression that the administrative or administrator expenses went up. I believe that line item was actually reduced as part of this year's budget. So you'll see 5117 is the ob, the org, the ob. The
object,
And if you look at that, that's for administrative. You'll see further down, 536 in FY17 is 476. 134 is 96,000. 100 is zeroed out. So there's just some shifts going on in terms of divisional changes where we account for them within the org and ob.
And then-
That's a 1-for-1 right there, the 319.
Just if you want to understand what the org and object means, so.
Oh, you don't.
So the object is basically telling you the type of expense. So if you look at that 5117 and then you see it again, you'll see that it always says administrative. So what the mayor is explaining is that from a departmental level or from a school level, it should shift over. I don't know off the top of my head what their coding is, but I imagine that the org
It means a
section,
whole
which
set
is
of
the
different
first thing,
things.
that will tell you which school it is or which administrative section it is. And then that's why you have it listed so many times, because they have to report to the DOE in terms of like what school revenues, not revenues, but what school expenses, and they have to be able to provide that individually for each school. So that's why you have so many accounts, and then if they're shifting, we closed one school, we're moving people around, that's why you're seeing some of these things happen.
Okay, and one last thing before I yield to someone else. I noticed at least on one page, I didn't notice this jump out on any other pages, so it might have been offset somewhere else, but on section 8, page 295, there was a significant jump on the line item called expense reimbursement, I'm assuming, expense reimbursed it says. So I was just wondering if you can talk about what that is and whether there's some strategy around that for this year.
Council, what page is it?
It's section 8, page 295,
You got it.
the last line.
Which page are you looking? I'm sorry.
It's
5712, last
This is
line.
297. You're looking at 295?
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's what I was
I'm
thinking.
sorry. I was,
There you go.
Thank
The
you.
last one.
my face is too small. I need to get stronger glasses.
It's the last, it's under.
We just have to find it in our, this is why it's a little complicated. Because we have to find it in
Administration and
our-
support PIC Super EXP is the heading.
That one is the school committee. Oh, no, that's the school committee expenses. It's school committee expenses, so school committees, the stipends for the school committee members.
And that went up quite a bit this year?
It did.
Okay.
It did last year, the city
We
council.
voted on it
Okay.
last year.
Great.
Increased those.
Thank you.
Councilor Domingos?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to refer to a question that is being asked in so many instances. During the debate on closing the outage, we hear a lot saying that we will have support programs that will support the children. Can you elaborate a little bit on what are those programs and how much it's going to cost during the budget, so people can have a verification that they're going to have support?
So when we talk about the supports for the children, I'll give you a clear example. Many of the children, not all, but a good number of the children at Bowditch are English language learners. So as we assign the children throughout the district, we need to ensure that we have ESL instructors to support them. So when we closed the school, we looked at redeploying our ESL staff depending on where the children have gone to. Also looking at if we have students at Bowditch that have individual educational plans, in special education, also looking at that, and then having the special education staff going to where the children are. So it's hard for me to tell you because we have to look at, in order to see the supports, we have to look at school by school. And what we have added also, we have added additional classroom teachers in the other schools. So using some of the positions that we had at Bowditch. As you know, we added new classrooms at Witchcraft, we added classrooms at Collins, we added classrooms at Bates to ensure that we had that we didn't have super class sizes that would go against the over the contract level. So we have also thought about other supports, such as for example, Collins will have about 109 students next year that are coming from Bowditch, thinking about the nursing support that they will need, the counseling support, and do they need the additional teachers, ESL. We also assign some behavioral specialists to some of our schools. So it depends. It's hard for me to tell you, this program, the ESL program, it cost X amount of dollars, and this is what we spent overall, because it was really broken down across the schools. So we do have in our budget a breakdown, and I'm not quite sure if they have.
Yes, they do.
They do a section
So if you look at these pages, I'm just going to show you visually from a distance. We have pages that look like this for each of our schools, and what you will see outlined here are the things that we have added. In some cases, we have made some reductions, but the immense majority of what you see here are some of the supports. I don't have the same page numbers that you have, but
It's section 4 for you.
Right, so it's 417, I believe
Or
it
the big
starts, or
tab.
416.
let me find.
Is this it first? I think so.
Just trying to find an example here to show you. Collins, yeah. If you could find the Collins Middle School, that would be, I'm not quite sure.
District-wide, I can find it.
Okay, yep.
416, you said?
Well, that starts what she's looking at. What did you say, Collins?
The Collins Middle School, yes.
Collins Middle School, that is 435.
435?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so what you see on this page, and we've done,
435.
I want to make sure everybody's there.
Tab number 4, and it's section 435.
So you want to do the blue tab that says
I'll
Do you
go
see
to
the blue
section
tab?
4,
think
page
he's there.
35.
Oh, he's there,
He's
okay.
just-
Yeah, so
he's
now you
to
just
find
go
the
on
page.
435.
Okay, so what you have here is, you'll see, what we've done in these pages is really, first of all, align budget changes to our strategic plan, so that you see that in the far left of the table. Then what is the initiative or what it is that we're adding? So for example, if you look at the first line for Collins, we're adding 1 ELA teacher, 2 math, 1 science, and 1.5 social studies teachers. So you look and FY18, 29.5 is the current number of teachers that you have now this school year at Collins. And then in the changes column is a positive, so we're adding 5.5 teaching positions for a total of 35 with a total number there, 375. So what you have here, you'll see specifically what have been the teachers and the supports that have been added to the school. So we added an art teacher, a physical education teacher, a special education teacher. We reduced 4 paraprofessionals of the Collins, but added 2 ESL teachers and the special education teacher. And this is when we worked with the principals, because we obviously met with Mr. Burns, discussed this, and he felt that he wanted more specialized instruction in the building. So there goes the reduction of the 4 paraprofessionals in favor of an additional special education teacher. Just giving you an idea of some of the discussions that we have with the school leaders. We added a City Connects coordinator, a reading specialist. In recognition that more children will be at the school, we added their non-personnel allocation for supplies. We added a 0.5 nurse to increase to support nursing, and we added 1 custodian, which we discussed before. So what you see for every school is what are the items that we have either added or reduced. You have the FY18 FTE, the change and the total in terms of FTE for next year, as well as the financial change associated with those changes. So if you're curious, and I would like to know specifically for every school what we've done, you will be able to go school by school and have a sense, again, of the cost of the different supports and the different schools.
Any other questions, members of the committee? Councilor Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My 3 sons went through Salem High School and Salem schools, got a great education, went on to good colleges, and they're doing well right now. Now, reflect back some 25 years ago, I think it was the Saltonstall School, was ranked the #1 public school in the country. If I remember, Mary, you might correct me if I'm wrong. It's a state, it had a good, I remember it being in the paper and the school bragging about it.
It was a big deal. It was an excellence of something, but I don't know if it was #1.
It was a big deal, whatever it was. And we had professionals from other states and other countries coming and touring the school. And they really thought outside the box, and I applauded that effort to think outside the box and provide a good education. Can you talk very briefly on where do we stand now with our students, and let's say the standardized testing each year, this year versus last year, the year after? Are we holding steady? Are we going up? Are we going down on SATs or whatever standardized test you want to use?
Yeah, so in terms of, if you're speaking specifically on standardized tests, we have seen increases in some, every year it fluctuates a bit. Last year, we saw increases at the high school. Again, I don't have the data fresh in my memory. It's been, I think, since October that I did that presentation. But we are, one of the things that we're thinking critically at the high school is increasing the number of students that are taking advanced courses, and with that, looking at the data to see, if that supports that. So we have seen gains at the high school. What is, I think, a little difficult in terms of the accountability data that we have currently in our state. As you recall, 2 years ago, I believe the high school was termed level 1 school. This past year, it went, to level 2 because of fluctuations in terms of the different subgroups and how they performed. What we are, hoping to achieve with the redesign is to really take a deep look, and we are doing that work. We have expanded our standards-based practices at the high school. We have rolled out a standards-based report card, and through the redesign, what we would like to do and are doing critically is thinking about personalized learning and how do we really have genuine engagement of the students in their learning, so that that we see our data. Not only academically, because the academic data is important, but also in other areas of the high school. The MCAS data is coming out soon, but the high school, I think the 9th graders took it online, so we'll have that data pretty soon. The rest of the grades will take a little bit longer. So I'll have a clear picture of how the students did this year. There were some increases. We were seeing some increases, particularly in some of the subgroups. Our ELLs at the high school posted, good gains as a result of the work that we have done there. But I can, provide you with the data if you'd like.
Same as last year. We heard the same thing last year, that the results weren't quite in yet. My notes say what you said just now, last year. But let's talk about last year then. Mm-hmm. How do we compare last year versus the year before and the year before that?
Yeah, so we have, again, I would say that it's overall increase, but in some areas, depending on the specific area, there have been, some areas where we saw more growth than others. Again, I don't have the data in front of me, so I would, be able to speak more clearly about, ELA and biology and physics and all of that.
Maybe I can just, a summary in terms of, I think we're seeing some growth in areas that we haven't in the past. We're also seeing definitely areas where we still need to have some improvement. Keep in mind, we had a level 4 school 3 years ago. We had Carlton School that was close to level 4 years ago, and we've seen incredible turnaround efforts there. We had a school like Bowditch where, despite a lot of hard work and a lot of efforts, one of the reasons I think there was such, I would say strong action needed with respect to Bowditch was last year's MCAS scores, which clearly showed other schools within our district trending favorably, and Bowditch not trending favorably. So when we're seeing growth occurring in other places and then not seeing it in one particular school, despite extra time, extra effort, extra resources, change in leadership, I think we needed to take some stronger action. I think the larger issue for us as we think about what's happening in our schools, we're a diverse community. We celebrate that. I think we really, from my perspective, I'm raising my family here because of it, right? It also means that standardized test scores are going to be a challenge for us. We're not an affluent community like Swampscott or Marblehead. It doesn't mean that we do not respect the results of these and don't work hard to ensure that our kids have the skill sets necessary to take these and do well, and many do. But we are facing a lot of challenges with poverty. And one of the areas the school committee is looking at is, look, standardized test scores are one measure of how well our schools are doing. It's an important one, and it's one that we definitely want to continue to track, make sure that we're recognizing where we're doing things well. It's a real opportunity for teachers to be reflective of what they're working on, and for our district to be reflective of what do we need to think about strategically. But as a parent and as a school committee chair, I also want to know how we're doing on family engagement. I also want to make sure how we're doing on closing opportunity gaps. We're also a district that maintains music in early elementary grades, ensures that kids have quality, field trip and out of class offerings. We need to work on, I think, better in family and children's engagement. That's one of the reasons we have City Connects and the College and Career Readiness Plan. We've heard from our students at the high school that they want to take a little bit more ownership. We want to have some experiences outside of school around externships, and we're looking at a College and Career Readiness path there. The high school redesign, very exciting. I mean, huge opportunity to really think about what are the skills our kids are going to need who are graduating today? I don't know that 10 years ago we thought this thing, that you'd have a job full-time designing an app for something on a phone, but your kids, one of your sons might be doing that, right? So our goal is to really rethink what's happening at the high school level, continue to make sure we're supporting high-quality teaching going on in the classroom, work like hell to get our standardized test scores up, but also recognize there are a lot of challenges, and what are we doing outside of school to support our students, our family engagement? And I want a different report card than just DESE, to be honest. Level 1, level 2, level 3, most people don't know what it means, honestly. And you can be a level 1 school, and it has nothing to do with the quality of what's going on there. You can be a level 4 school and have people working their tails off, and it doesn't equate that way. We need our own report card. I think every gateway city does, because I'm concerned about the standardized test scores, and we got DESE lording over us in a good way, because we need to make sure that all kids, not just some kids, are doing well. Your kids, my kids, they're going to be fine. There are going to be kids who need additional supports, and we need to track that. But I also want to know those other things. Do parents feel welcome when they go into a school? Do we have a strong engagement plan for students themselves to be more active and understand what they're learning and why? You know, are we creating pathways for students and families through our schools to be, better civic minded? There's a lot that we need to tackle as a district, for sure, and there always will be, but I think we need to not just focus on standardized test scores. And I'm the person saying that who supports this effort and would never want to see us not introducing higher rigor. Remember, we started PARC before we had to. MCAS 2.0 is essentially PARC, These are high standards, really tough stuff. I implore any of you, take a look at the 10th grade questions, okay? Yeah. There's no way that I think I would have done well on the MCAS in 10th grade, knowing what I know about myself and the rigor that we're putting these kids under. So kudos to us in terms of really wanting to hope for more and wish for more as a Commonwealth. But I also want us to recognize that there are so many strengths and good learning going on within our schools that I don't want us to be hamstrung by just a test score. So I love the accountability, but I also think we need more than just that. You wouldn't want to define, none of us would want to be defined by simply a test score. I think there's more that we offer our kids that we should brag about.
Yes, but it's a measure.
Agreed.
Like at the library, they count how many people walk through the door, how many books are given out.
Yep.
When we talk about the public works, we talk about how many square feet of sidewalks and cubic yards of roadway they repave. So it's a measure.
Agreed.
So we need to measure, how many of what percentage of our students are going to 4-year schools afterwards, or what the average SAT score is compared to our abutting towns, or like towns, if you would, like cities.
Yep.
So we need to measure.
It is important, and we do, and we do keep those measures. And I have to say that our trend as a district over the past 3 years has been on an upward trend. Overall, I understood your question to be specific to the high school. So, but in terms of our schools, definitely, we are trending in an upward trajectory. But like Mayor Driscoll said, I think that what is important for us too is to ensure that we have great learning environments, in our schools, and that we provide our students with the experiences that they need. And that, for example, at the high school, we have a great high school, but we feel that sending our kids out to internships out there and experience learning for themselves is 21st century learning that, currently we are developing and working on as part of the redesign. That also is going to be really important. And that's really what, again, not taking away from the measures, because those are obviously measures, but that are important and we track them. But then what are the other experiences that we're providing our students and how we are setting them up for success for college and career? I think that for us is really the big orientation that we have at the high school, and we're excited about the redesign that is happening. So
if we can measure and brag about those things, that would be huge. Right now, the newspaper puts down the MCAS scores and all the towns in North Shore. But if we can tell the other side of the story of all the really good things and brag about our system.
We are trying. We are. I don't know if you have looked. I have lived in this area for a long time, and the Salem News is now publishing much more positive stories about Salem Public Schools. And, we're excited about that. And, there's more, and we have a lot of very exciting things that are continuing to happen in our district. And more importantly, we're hearing more and more. I'm getting emails. I'm hearing from parents that I'm saying, I was thinking about taking my child out of the district, and now I have decided to have my child, stay, or my child is asking to attend the Collins Middle School instead of going somewhere else. So more and more we're hearing about that, and that's what we really want as a city, is to be able to make sure that our families, everyone, want to keep their children here.
I just think that you need to brag more about the really great programs that we have and the ones that we're creating, and let people know so that we can retain our high flyers, if you would.
A lot of those kids now are measuring the school system, measuring individual schools is a composite of a lot of things, and the criteria, unfortunately, the state uses is basically one simple criteria: how are we doing on our exams year after year? What's the trend on MCAS/PARCC? And that's how they determine. You can be in the 20th percentile schools statewide, but you're improving rapidly enough that you're a level 1 school.
Yeah.
A level 1 school doesn't mean you're one of the top handful of schools. It means that you're improving at a quick pace. And that's something that's frequently misunderstood. We have schools that have been improving rapidly. We still have a ways to go with a lot of them to get them really to the levels that they could be, but they have been mainly improving on a fairly good trend with a few blips out of it. But the most important measurement, at least in my view, and one of the ones that I see success, because I have a child who's 16, and his friends are scattered amongst the school system. He has friends that are at Salem Academy. He has a lot of friends at Salem High School. He has a lot of friends at Essex Tech. He has friends that are in other districts, and they all talk to each other and they all share information. And generally speaking, the kids that are at the schools and the kids that are at the high school are happy with what they're doing, and they're taking advantage of the opportunities that are there. And then when they graduate, they're in a position where they can go off and go to a college, whether it's a 2-year college or a 4-year college, or go into a career or go into a trade or an apprenticeship. And we are doing a pretty good job of preparing kids for that outcome, whatever that outcome is that they're looking for. So by that benchmark, really the benchmark of the reputation of the school system among the peers and how they're doing coming out of it, I think we've been on a pretty good trend in recent years. And there's a lot of things there's a lot of work to do still, but the overall trend has been positive with the blips, but the trend has been positive for a good 6-7 years at this point, since we, basically hit bottom. We've been mostly going in the right direction, I think. So, Councilor Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor Driscoll, comment you made a moment ago stuck with me, that we are an exciting gateway city. Is there and you sort of said offhand, it would be nice if there was a measure against other gateway cities. Is there something like that, or do we?
The tool the state uses is really these levels. I think they're even acknowledging this isn't a good tool. It doesn't really tell the picture of what's going on with respect to a particular class, and it becomes a scarlet letter. Falsely, if you're one, or wrongfully if it's lower than that. I think it's up to us. I guess my point is the best person to ask about our schools are the parents and the students and the families who are there right now, and that's who should be helping us set what are the metrics that are important. These are important. Standardized test scores are. We track them. The superintendent's performance goals are all established according to the metrics. Like, I don't want for anyone to think that, we're just sort of tossing these aside because we don't like the outcome associated, because we've got room to grow. It's an important tool to measure things, but it's one. And so there's a whole other list of things that I think would also matter. I say that as both a parent and as somebody who is interested in looking at a whole picture of a school. I want to know the scores, but I also want to know some of these other things. And I think it's going to be up to us as a district or gateway cities collectively to identify what are the things, but it should be what's important to, what might be important in Peabody may be different than what's important here, and talking to parents, talking to teachers. Do teachers feel supported? Like, we haven't spent a lot of time talking about that, but having supportive, caring teachers that feel like they're in a trusting environment, that they're appreciated, that you can share what's working and what's not, and have that relationship. Like, that is key. We saw that at Bentley. We see that at Carleton. A real cohesion and alignment about what our needs are, and an ability for people to feel like they're not doing it alone. Along with, the breadth of opportunities that we have within our community around the musical programs, great community support in many respects outside of school, cultural organizations. Like, my kids know their way around the PBD Essex Museum better than I do, right? And it's because of the fact that they went to Salem and they walked down and, there was an experience there. That's important. They go to school with somebody who doesn't get an iPhone 10 the minute it comes out, right? They have different backgrounds, different income levels, different family units, and that's a value. Like, how do we put a value on that and also recognize that we're working on ensuring that your academic experience is great too. Many of our issues are really affected by poverty and some of those challenges. And I'm certainly not saying that kids who come from poor backgrounds can't do well. They absolutely can, and we see that every single day. But we know there's a lot of challenges. When we have almost 200 homeless students, like, that's hard, right? It's a hard MCAS test, right? And that's a reality that we face. So I think having more of our parents, their experience, I tell young families all the time, go check out a school. Like, don't listen to what the realtor told you, right? Go sit in one of our elementary schools, or go visit, and you go tell me if you don't feel comfortable there, or you're seeing something there that makes you concerned. And I think a lot of people who do that, who take that time, realize, holy cow, some really great work going on here. We've got nice buildings, especially now we can say that about all of our schools. We've invested in them. So I'm really excited about the future. One, the fact that we're tackling it, we're not running away from it, we're not putting our head in the sand, we're acknowledging it's not perfect, right? We've got room to grow. And if anything, I think, there's a highlight on that effort. So we're not in the top tier, but we want to be, and we are aspiring to be, and we're working our tail off to be. And we've got a lot of support, frankly, financially, to do that. I was just talking with one of my colleagues, like, they are having a battle royale just up the street in Methuen. Major, $4 million deficit this year, $8 million deficit next year. Everett was, amen. We've already been through our little blip. We're in a place where it's not everything we want. We're not rolling in cash by any measure, but we are able to support really high quality programs. And like I said, we're striving to get better every single day. And I'm excited about it.
I absolutely agree with all of that. I guess my question was coming more from, with other gateway cities in the area, are we talking with them about the types of strategies that they're using and the types of, because the challenges might be similar, that we're facing in those as those cities, and I'm sure we're all sort of being creative in the way that we're approaching those challenges, and then at the same time, has there been any talk about sort of measurement among those?
So the urban superintendents get together on a regular basis. There's a separate cohort there. And DESE, there's one thing that DESE does is they track data. Like, we can track all of the other gateway cities. They have cohort communities that sort of measure up with your demographics. Not exactly, but pretty close in terms of subgroups and the like. So you can take a look at, where do I fit? Like, where am I in the pecking order? And, I think the research that I've done in the past, we're right in the middle of the pack. We're better at this, a little bit worse than that. Our goal as a school committee is, what's the statewide average? Now, the statewide average has a different demographic than we do, okay? The statewide average is not quite as poor and not quite as diverse, but we want to be where that statewide average is. And we are. In many places we are within our school district, but not at every single grade and every single school. So that's how we break it down from standardized test scores. We should, at a minimum, be at the state average. And for us, that would be a win, because the state average, like I said, is not the same demographic as the city of Salem, and if you could be there, that's great. We also know there are some districts who are doing well. There's real excellence happening in Revere. They've done a great job in terms of, as an urban school district, really building a framework there. They had a superintendent who was there for 20 years, Paul Dakin, very highly regarded. You can really build a strong team. I'd like to think that we're building a strong team here as well, and are able to take advantage of both the expertise internally and externally. So when you think about the work that we're doing with the Harvard By All Means initiative, we're in a room with, Oakland, Somerville, ourselves, Providence, and Louisville, really, teasing out what are some of the best practices, how are we braiding together services to help address some of those poverty needs that we know happen in places like ours, and how do we ensure that's going to help move the needle. So I think there's some exciting things. I think gateway cities have an education platform, and a lot of it's around advocacy at the state level. We haven't teased out, Mass Inc. is working on that. We haven't teased out what's the report card look like. And like I said, I'm not sure it's a gateway city thing. I think we should be able to put a group of people, meaningful parents, business community, and say, what's our expectations for our schools to deliver,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And how do we measure it? Because it's not just saying what we want, like, okay, how do we actually measure college or career readiness? Like, what's the metric for that look like? Or family and community engagement. What does that mean, in terms of what you're seeing happening at your school? So that's some of the conversations we've had. I think we really want to try and achieve that, especially our Salem, our kids. It's a real effort on our part to think about what happens out of school and how can we ensure that we're supporting thriving youth, right? If we're supporting thriving youth, chances are we stand a pretty good chance of getting good success in school as well.
Thank you.
Councilor Dibble?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor, I have to agree with just about everything you said, except for one strong disagreement, that our goal should not be to be average. Our goal shouldn't be to be in the middle of the pack. I think we put our hurdle, all three of my kids ran track at Salem High, so high jump hurdle, whatever. We put our hurdle way up high, all of our children would jump higher.
Yep.
If we put our hurdle way down here, all of our children clear that hurdle, and everybody feels good about it, but we're below average.
Yep.
Let's put the hurdle higher and get everybody to jump higher.
Well, you can set a goal, and you can set a goal to get to, and then you can set the next goal once you've gotten to the first goal. So,
Superintendent, you talked to. I was excited to hear some of your opening remarks about the college credit program at the high school.
The early college program?
Yeah, and in here it talks about reimagine the high school experience. So we're doing things differently at the high school, but can we carry that down to the lower grades at the middle school and then down below that as well? And is it all MCAS driven, or are there other tests like the Ohio State test that we all used to take years ago that my children took? Is it just MCAS now, or
I'm not familiar with the Ohio State, so that may give you an indication.
The Iowa.
We're not using
you know the Iowa test?
Ohio State. Standardized
Iowa,
test.
maybe I remember from my teaching years, and
I remember the Iowa test, but not
yeah. So
4 letters.
that depends. If you're looking statewide, if your question is, if what is the state using?
No. Focus on the really good programs that we're doing at the younger grades. Because we talked about the high school. What are we doing that's going to give the K-5 students a better education, so that when they go to the middle school and then go to high school, they'll be able to jump over that higher hurdle. We can even bring the hurdle up higher.
Oh, absolutely. So with the younger grades in the elementaries, we have completely revamped, instruction. We have rolled out standards-based instruction and practices in our district, and that's as a result of the work that happened actually the year prior that I got here with a dissemination grant with Salem Academy. We had a group of teachers that worked very closely with teachers at Salem Academy to develop what does standards-based practice look like, and that's the practice that has yielded the academy a lot of its success. So very proud to say that we have not only instituted those practices in terms of teachers planning lessons based on the standards, but also we have rolled out a report card that is really it's standards-based. We have changed the report card, and you would ask me, but how does that change or increase rigor? So when you're able to take the standards and really unpack them, a standard may call, for example, for a student to be able to read text with comprehension, right? But there's so much more involved in that. What are the distinct skills that students need in order to be able to read that text with good comprehension? With standards-based practices, what our teachers have done is that they have developed what we call proficiency scales. So a proficiency scale takes that standard and breaks it down into the specific steps that kids need to master along the way to get to that mastery of that standard. Our report card has been redesigned to be aligned with that work. So what is happening with the standards-based practices, which I think have been really, they've had a tremendous impact in our district in terms of lifting the quality, is that not only our teachers are getting better at understanding and really implementing the standards, but our students have a clear pathway to what is it that I need to do to get there. So in the, starting with the lower grades, in the primary grades, we have developed the proficiency scales. We've also added some curriculum and materials that really aimed, especially we're looking at our kindergartners and our first graders, those early grades, the development of their phonetic awareness to be able to develop learning how to read. We have adopted across the entire district a program, just to give you an example, called Foundations. Foundations is a research-based program that has proven to support the learning of phonics and the learning of the basics of reading. And I'm so very, excited. This is a program that prior to, me leaving Boston, just a few schools had there, and here in Salem, we have it in all of our schools. And we have conducted training. Our coaches are doing that work with our teachers. So what we have now is the ability, when a student, let's say a kindergartner or a first grader, transfers from Bates to Horseman or Horseman to Witchcraft, those teachers are using the same program. And not only that, now we have a platform, an online platform that holds that information. So we're able to have, to be able to look at students and know exactly what are the skills that they need in order to learn a particular standard, a particular sound, a particular phoneme. If we're talking about first grade or kindergarten, just to give you an example of that. So we've also increased our menu of what we call formative assessments. These are not MCAS-related assessments. These are assessments that are more end of unit, but that they're all aligned with the standards. So by looking at that data and assessing the children regularly throughout the year, we're better than ever, to gauge the progress our students are making. So that ability to do that with the data, with the assessments, with the standards-based practices and the programs that we've put in place, that's tremendously changing the teaching and learning landscape in our district. In terms of programming, just to give you an example, I'm sure you've heard that, the Collins Middle School has a robust STEM program in the sciences. We're very excited to see Witchcraft Heights next year. They will have a STEM teacher, and they're in all of the children at Witchcraft next year, all of them, kindergarten to grade 5, will be taking STEM as a specialty in their schedule. So, and with the goal now we have a school that will be feeding, students that have had that STEM experience at the elementary level into the middle school, and then growing a STEM branch also at the high school. So we are taking, lessons from the great work that we have going on at the middle school level and the high school level, and thinking of ways of doing that with the younger students. The other thing that we are, as I said at the beginning, we're rolling out, a one-to-one initiative at the Collins. We're starting one at the high school in 9th grade. We're already thinking about what does this mean for the elementary schools? What, as we learn lessons along the way, how do we leverage more technology? We have in our lower grades, I don't want you to think that because we don't have a one-to-one initiative in the lower grades, we're not using technology. All of our schools have Chromebook cards that are used for testing, but that are also being used by our teachers as an instructional tool and as a way of bringing the curriculum to our students. So the goal as we move forward with our strategic plan is to increase the use of technology and really to continue to refine our practices so that we see growth. Because now we're better able than ever to track the progress of our students. I know that there was a lot of talk when I presented in front of school committee regarding the progress of the children at Bowdish as they are being transferred, to other schools, we'll be able to track the progress of all of our students and be able to come back and say, yes, this is the progress that they have made, and actually quantify that progress with the data that we have. So I feel very confident and very excited about the work that we're doing. And I know that our schools are on an upward trajectory, not only on the academic realm, but I also have to say, and I didn't mention this at the beginning, I am very proud of presenting to you a budget that has not undermined in any way the music and the arts offerings in our district, which is such a source not only of pride for us, but the number of minutes in talking, regarding what Mayor Driscoll was talking about. What are the things that we can quantify, right, that we have as a district that others don't have? One of the things that, as we're building a report card for our district, is the number of minutes that our children in Salem receive instruction in the arts. We are by far ahead of so many districts around us. And those are the kinds of things that, when you ask parents, why do you love, your school, or what are the things that you love about your school, you will hear, I love the principal, I love the school community, and I love the opportunities that my kids have to participate in band, in music, in arts, and what have you. So I think while we're doing this critical work of increasing, our rigor and increasing student performance, we're also being very mindful that we're looking not only at that, but at areas beyond that. And I think in Salem, we should be very proud. I know I am. Of the work that we're doing to really ensure that our kids have great experiences in other areas as well.
So with that, any further questions on the budget itself for the superintendent, or?
Two observations.
Quickly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, after all, it is a $60 million budget, so we should be able to...
And the school committee spent ample time on it, as well as we are, so.
Yeah. I hear you, but it's still our job to approve this budget. With that, a couple of observations, comments really fast. With regard to our public library and getting our students from our school system in there, and I'm speaking of the younger children. I speak to all of them, but primarily the younger kids that haven't entered our school system, the 2, 3, and 4-year-olds, and then those that are just starting, the 5 kindergartners and first grade. What can we do to get more of our students, whether they go to Salem Public Schools or not, but they live in Salem, into the library, and specifically with the Hispanic population, educating them and getting them into the library and getting them reading at an earlier age. I teach chess over there as a volunteer, and I see very few Hispanic young families in there. There's some. The percentage is low compared to what we have citywide, including in my chess program. It's low. And then separately from that, my other half of the question, I'll put them together, is Salem State University involvement. The meeting that I'm looking forward to, that I've been asking for 4.5 months now, mentioned Match Education. It's a school in Boston where they think outside the box and they do things quite differently, severely differently. And the amount of college students that are in there working with their students is staggering, the percentage amount. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's a huge percentage of student teachers helping those students to do better. And they take it from pre-K through 12th grade. They're also soon going to offer bachelor programs for those students. So I like that way that we're expanding the high school, offering college credits. But they, at that public charter school, they're allowed to issue master's degree credits. They're awarded that right to their college students that are helping their students learn. They really think outside the box. If they have a problem, they'll get together and they'll find solutions. I was amazed. I've been down there many times, built their 2 playgrounds for them. They really thought outside the box. So I wanted to see Salem State University being used not just to benefit our students, but to benefit and strengthen the college as well, and go 40, 50 times more involvement than what they're presently doing now. Let's think outside the box and take it to a higher much higher level.
Those are wonderful goals, but neither of those are related to the budget.
They do, because we're having a meeting talking about,
the school's budget.
yes, talking about the school budget, which we have numbers in here.
For all the programs that they've approved from the numbers that they've been given, yeah, so. We're talking about school system goals and possible policies and procedures, but not,
You're right, the meeting,
So,
the meeting that I asked for will not cost a single dollar, except for some time, so that's not in the budget, it won't cost a dollar. Thank you for
it's
pointing that
also
out.
not the meeting that we're having tonight, which is the budget hearing. So just try and stay on that, please.
2 bits of ideas for you to consider.
Thank you, I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're very wonderful ideas. Any other questions from members of the committee about the budget? Or comments, if not, or? I do think a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here is absolutely worthy to discuss too. So it's just, I want to just make sure we have the context. There are things we need to talk about with the school committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion to approve the total personnel and non-personnel expenses in the amount of $57,628,889.
Councilor Dillon moves to approve the school total personnel and non-personnel expenses of $57,628,889, seconded by Councilor Peterson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? So moved.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. That's, you guys, you've been doing some terrific work over there, and
Thank you.
I do agree, and I hope all the comments that you've gotten from members of the city council here will help you in your mission. There's a lot of good stuff, and I'll even give the words of Councilor credit here for a lot of good ideas for hopefully things that you guys can look at implementing that can make things move better, so.
Absolutely, and I thank you all for your comments, your thoughts, your ideas, very committed to continuing this work on behalf of the children of our city. Yeah, thank you.
Councilor Peterson.
Motion to adjourn?
Councilor Peterson moves to adjourn. We are adjourned.